Well, thanks for joining me again there, Star Wars The Clone Wars action figure fans and Star Wars The Vintage Collection action figure fans. I wanted to do a quick video about Captain Fordo, just some little things. I wanted to compare the Vintage Collection Captain Fordo with the Clone Wars version one that came out in the ARC Troopers Battle Pack back in last, I think it was September it came out. And then I wanted to show you also how, if you're lucky enough to score a Vintage Collection Captain Fordo, and you want to figure out a way to display his secondary armor that he comes with, his Phase 2 armor that he comes with, without having to go out and buy a whole nother one, I was going to show you a real quick tip on that, but I'll do that in just a minute. But first I want to do a quick comparison. So, as you can see, I have the Vintage Collection Captain Fordo on the left and the Clone Wars Collection Captain Fordo on the right. And the first thing that I want to compare is their blaster pistols, because they are two different sculpts. The Clone Wars one being more stylized. So, let me see here. So here's the Vintage Collection Captain Fordo's blaster pistol here. And you can see it has some pretty nice detail on it. And then here is the Clone Wars version. You can also see that this has a point to it where this does not. And it's also blue. All the weapons that came in that ARC Troopers Battle Pack that came with Captain Fordo had this blue haze. If you remember that ARC Trooper assault rifle had a bluishness to it, which I don't have that handy, but for the most part they are basically the same thing. I call these DC-15 custom blaster pistols because I do believe they're based on the DC-15 blaster carbine, but they're cut off custom blasters that ARC Troopers use. And Captain Fordo is not the only ARC Trooper that has these. Anti-Hailfire Commander came with a set of these. He was actually the first one to come out. He came with this one because he's a Clone Wars version. And I'm trying to think, I can't really think of anyone else off the top of my head that comes with them. However, so that's another thing. And by the way, I did get my Clone Wars Captain Fordo, the West Star Assault Rifle, because I actually think those look better and they fit in his hands a little bit better. Now, another thing I wanted to compare was, if you look, the Clone Wars version has this removable communications gauntlet here, and Captain Fordo doesn't, on the Vintage Collection, doesn't have anything here. In fact, his communications thing is on the right hand, like regular realistic clones have. So that's another difference there. I don't know why in the Clone Wars they switched the communications rig to the left hand, but they did, and oh well. Other than that, the only other difference is that the Clone Wars Captain Fordo does not have a removable helmet. He's just a nubbed head, which if you have an extra clone head hanging around, you can replace that with a regular clone head, and then you can have him pose him holding his ARC Trooper helmet, so that it looks like he has a removable helmet. I plan to Dremel this out to make it removable at some point, and Captain Fordo will then have a removable helmet in the Clone Wars version, but he does not come that way. Whoa! Okay. So that's the other difference, and obviously Captain Fordo also does have his removable helmet, the Vintage Collection one. And we can see that nice hairdo there, kind of like a faux hawk there. I see a lot of football players or athletes having that, and his goatee. So I don't know how I would make my the head for this guy here have that. I could definitely give him the goatee though. Alright, and the last thing that I wanted to talk about, I'm a big ARC Trooper fan, and Captain Fordo is the guy who started it all for me. Way back when the Clone Wars micro series came out, that very first episode that they ever showed was the assault on Munilis, where Captain Fordo takes the Tiger Shark gunship into the city, and they get shot down and ends up going on a secret mission to take out that big gun that you see. in the episode, and in that whole episode, the whole thing about them not using their voices at all and using hand signals and really being true commandos in the style of that raid just won me over. And as a G.I. Joe fan, ARC Troopers to me are like the G.I. Joe of Star Wars. So I wanted to show you one way you could get an extra Captain Fordo out of just the one is if you go and you buy a vintage collection Attack of the Clones clone. You can convert that into a Phase 2 Captain Fordo using the second set of armor. So you can see this guy, Captain Fordo here, he doesn't have the cool head, but if you wanted to get the head, a buddy of mine named the Clonehead has casted all of this stuff, and you can purchase that head from him and paint it up yourself if you're a customizer like me and have a second head, which I plan to do at some point. But for now, that'll do. You can also think of it as maybe this is what he looked like before he got the mohawk, so I could put the head from here on this and then put this head on that. Like, that's how Captain Fordo started out without the cool hairdo. And then you just put the bandolier on here and the helmet, and boom, you've got yourself a second Captain Fordo. Of course, you do need to paint the shoulder pads, elbow pads, and knee pads, and also the wrist communicator. And then boom, voila, I got two Captain Fordos now. So just wanted to share that trick with any of you guys who get Captain Fordo, and maybe it's not so easy to find another one. I know I'm super lucky to have mine, and so I'm not counting on finding another one to do this with, so I went ahead and just got myself another AOTC clone. And the last thing that you have to do to complete the whole thing is you have to make yourself a custom ARC Trooper blaster. And the way that you do this is you just take a regular DC-15 standard issue blaster rifle that clones come with. If you have gotten any Saga Legends, you've gotten plenty of these in the secret weapons pack. And then you cut it right here, and then you cut the end off, and you get rid of that middle piece, and you glue them together with super glue. And if you want to know what super glue I use Loctite. Just sand it down the two edges really good before and super glue them together. And then you have to do just a bit of trimming on the sides here with your X-Acto knife, just to make it narrower, because it won't fit into his holster very well if you don't trim it. But after I trimmed a little bit off of each side, I managed to get it to fit in there nicely. And I also gave him the rifle, because if you watch the second season of the Clone Wars micro series, he does actually carry a rifle in the assault on the Battle of Coruscant. So anyhow, that's going to do it for this video, and until next time, may the Force be with you. Bye-bye.